I recently did a video about the differences between the new Rolex Explorer 40 and the Explorer 36mm and which one might be right for you. But I got loads of comments asking me to compare the 39mm and the 40mm, so that's what we're doing today. And spoiler alert, I'm team 39mm all the way. Now you might be thinking, how different can these really be? It's only a millimeter, Brittany, calm down. But there's a lot of differences between these two than just a millimeter. And if you truly think I can't make a 10-minute video obsessing over a millimeter, boy, you don't know me at all. Before we get started, just for good housekeeping, there will be lots of shots in this video of these two watches together, so if these are both on the screen at the same time and you're wondering which is which, if you see the Explorer name printed on the top line of the dial, then it's the 40mm, and if it's lower down on the dial, you're looking at the 39mm. That is the easiest way to tell these apart because they otherwise look nearly identical. Let's look at the specifications first. Starting with the current catalog 40mm, my calipers measure the case diameter at 39.7mm, thickness at 11.7mm, and a lug-to-lug of 46.5mm. Keep that lug-to-lug in your head because that gets interesting later on, so 46.5mm lug-to-lug. This has 100 meters of water resistance, and powering this watch is the manufacturer caliber 3230 COSC certified movement, giving you 70 hours of power reserve. For the wearing experience, here's this watch on my 5.5-inch wrist versus my husband's 7-inch wrist. I think I am just sized out of this one, but it looks great. It looks just right on my husband's wrist. Now, looking at the 39mm, the 214270, my calipers measure this case bang on 39mm, 11.7mm thick, and a 47.4mm lug-to-lug. This is a slightly older watch, so powering this is the 3132 automatic movement, COSC certified, and only giving 48 hours of power reserve. The Explorer 39 was discontinued at Watches and Wonders 2021 with the reintroduction of the 36mm variation. Now, as for the wearing experience, I much prefer this over the 40mm, so here this one is on my 5.5-inch wrist versus my husband's 7-inch wrist. It's almost shocking how much larger the 40mm feels and wears. It's only a millimeter. It's so weird, but you can really feel that millimeter. So if you like a watch that wears a little bit larger, or maybe you've tried on the 39mm before and it felt too small, the 40mm could be the way forward. If you look at just the basic specifications, the only differences seem to be that 1mm size difference and the movement upgrade, but there's so much more than just this. Comparing these two dials, I don't know if you can see it through the video I took, but the dial on the 39mm has much more of a matte effect, while the 40mm is more glossy. As mentioned before, one of the most obvious giveaways is the Explorer placement, with the 40mm having it in the top half of the dial, and the lug width is also worth mentioning. So the 40mm has a 21mm lug spacing, and the 39mm has the far more desirable 20mm lug spacing. If you're a bit newer to watches, 20mm is just far better for strap alternatives. The go-to size for most NATO straps and leather straps is 20mm. Of course, you can buy other sizes. 20mm is just the most available. Something that's interesting about these two, and I just can't figure it out, I'm going to be processing this as we go, it is the lug-to-lug. I've spent far too long measuring and remeasuring these and trying to work it out in my brain, but I just can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. So I'm just going to lay out all my findings here and we'll get through this together. So the case diameters make sense to me. So the 40mm measures at 39.7mm and the 39mm measures bang on 39mm. But the lug-to-lug measurement of the 40mm is 46.5mm, and that's smaller than the 39mm, which measures at 47.4mm. And now I'm going to say something that makes no sense, but if you hold these watches with the bracelets pinned back, the Explorer 39, and forgive me for using the technical horological term here, almost looks fatter. Can you see it in the B-rolls? Does this make sense? But you'll also notice the end links of the 40mm protrude just that little bit further out, making it almost look longer and skinnier. And this seems to be the direction that Rolex is going more into. So when I think of the updates made to the Submariner, when they updated this model in, I want to say 2020 or 2021, they ditched the maxi case, so the more squared off case for a longer, sleeker case design. And I feel like a similar update has been made here with the Explorer. Measuring end link to end link, the 40mm measures at 51.1mm, while the 39mm measures at 49.2 millimeters. I need to get out more. Good grief. Is this how I'm spending my time? I've spent so much time measuring these watches and losing my mind, staring at the differences. I need some friends, man. Anyways, I don't know what's going on with these two. I've spent way too long obsessing over it and measuring these watches and trying to wrap my head around them. Here's what I will say though. Even though the 40mm has a smaller lug-to-lug measurement, it wears a heck of a lot larger on the wrist than the 39mm. I've obsessed over the measurements, I've overthought it, and I think I just need to let it go and accept this as a truth. I personally prefer the wearing experience of the 39mm, but I do have smaller wrists. I'd recommend the 39mm for anyone with a 7-inch wrist size or smaller, and the 40mm for a 7-inch wrist size or larger, or anyone who prefers a watch that wears a little bit larger. So at the beginning of the video, I said I personally prefer the 39mm, and if you watch my channel regularly, that won't be a surprise. I almost always prefer a smaller watch size. The 36mm would be my ideal one, really. But there's a lot more to it than just the sizing. For me, being a total Rolex wanker, I will always prefer a professional model having the model name placed on the bottom half of the dial. Every single professional model writes the name of the watch on the lower line. The Air King Submariner, Daytona, GMT Master 2, Deep Sea, with the Explorer now being the only exception. Oh, it feels so wrong. It is the classic models that write on the top line, with the Oyster Perpetual, Day Date, Datejust, with the only exception being the Sky Dweller. But like, why is the Sky Dweller in the classic line? I feel like it should be in the professional, but that's a rant for another time. My preference is always Rolex professional models, name goes on the lower text line. I prefer the 39mm matte dial over the glossy dial, and the 20mm lugs. Makes sense to me. I just love the 39mm. But you know, I should say this more. In these videos, it's just my unique, subjective preferences. Watch tastes are highly subjective. We have different wrist sizes, shapes, priorities in our wristwatch choices. So if you prefer the 40mm, I mean, I can't argue with that choice. It's a bloody great watch. I can't argue with that. Even though you're wrong. Right, that's enough from me on this fine Sunday. If you liked this video, found it helpful, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's thank the gorgeous, fabulous, wonderful Pope tier patrons. Ooh, ooh, thank you patrons, you're the best, you're the greatest. Ooh, I said thank you patrons, you are the greatest people ever. Pope tier patrons, your names are on the screen right now. You're gorgeous, you're fabulous, you're amazing. All tier patrons are amazing, but special shout out to the Pope tier patrons. Let's go. Thanks guys.